Welcome back, class. Today we'll be talking about Chapter 10, the digital gaming world. Probably a lot of you do a lot of gaming and have from a very young age. And so you'll probably know a lot about this chapter just going in. Um, in this chapter, though, we're going to talk about some other things that you might not know about, like the early history of digital gaming, including its roots in penny arcades, trace the evolution of digital gaming from arcades and bars to living rooms and in the hands of people right in their own homes, discuss the rise of gaming as a social medium that forms communities of play, analyze the economics of gaming, including the industry's various revenue streams, and raise questions about the role of digital gaming in our democratic society. So let's talk a little bit about digital gaming, how it fits into our society. Digital gaming offers play, entertainment, and social interaction. And like the internet, they combine text, audio, and moving images. So think about what's your favorite? So, as far as the early history goes, when the Industrial Revolution swept Western civilization 2 centuries ago, the technological advances involved weren't simply about mass production, they also promoted mass consumption and the emergence of leisure time, both of which created money making opportunities for media makers. By the late 19th century, the availability of leisure time sparked the creation of mechanical games like pinball. Technology continued to grow, and by the late 1950s, computer science students in the US developed early versions of video games as we know today. In the 1880s, coin-operated contraptions started cashing in on the idleness of people. In the 1880s, the seeds of modern entertainment industry were planted via a series of coin-operated contraptions. And what I mean by cashing in on idleness, people had extra time on their hands to spend money and do other things like gaming. First appearing in train depot, hotel lobbies, bars, and restaurants, these leisure machines, also called counter machines, would find a permanent home in the first thoroughly modern indoor playground called the penny arcade. Automated phonographs used in arcade machines evolved into the jukebox, and kinetoscopes and kinescopes set the stage for the movies. But the machines that were most relevant to today's gaming industry were more interactive and primitive. Some were strength testers, which dared young men to show off their muscles by punching a bag or arm wrestling. Another arcade game, the Bagatelle, spawned the pinball machine, the most prominent of the mechanical games. Because pinball was considered a sinister game of chance, feeding the gambling underworld, the game was banned in most American cities like New York, Chicago, and LA. Pinball gained popularity after World War II with the addition of the flipper bumper, which enables the players to careen the ball back up the play table using a flipper bumper. So you've probably seen or played pinball before. Now the game was a challenging game of skill, touch, and timing, all of which would become vital abilities for video game players years later. Here are some photos of early gaming arcade on the left, and another photo of an early arcade game. You can see it's made of wood. It's a bowling game. And the photo on the left, you can see that, it doesn't look like our typical arcades of today, but that's the way it would look back then. You can see the old gumball machines here. The arcade machines lined up, the tin ceilings. I mean, it's it's a beautiful artistic place. Not what you might see today, though. Okay, so let's talk about some of the first video games. Cathode ray tube amusement device was created by Thomas T. Goldsmith and Estelle Ray Mann. The invention was never marketed or sold, featured the key component of the first video game CRT screens provided the image for analog TV. First home game in 1972 called Odyssey sold for $100 and it was released by Magnavox. Odyssey used player controllers that moved dots of light around the screen and a 12-game inventory of simple aiming and sports games. In 1975, Nolan Bushnell and a friend created Atari. You've probably heard of Atari. The Enterprise's first creation was a simple two-dimensional tennis-style game with two vertical paddles that bounced a white dot back and forth. Sound familiar? But unlike the Odyssey version, Pong made blip noises and really hit big in arcades. So in the 70s, Atari began making a home version of Pong with Sears. And the arrangement established the home video game market. And Bushnell, who also started the Chuck E. Cheese chain, sold Atari to Warner Communications for $28 million. Although Atari founded in 1984, plenty of companies folded in 1984, plenty of other companies, including Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, followed its early lead, transforming the video game business into a full-fledged industry. The 70s and early 80s arcades and bars were filled with games like Asteroids, Pac-Man, and Donkey Kong. And remember, Pac-Man, the first avatar, really, the character that made the game into a first-person game. So the American company named Midway in 1980 bought out a Japanese-developed game, and it had licensed, and it called it Pac-Man. The name in Japanese had been the equivalent to Puck-Man, like a hockey puck, in English. So Midway executives were afraid that people would change the first letter of Puck, and they changed the name then to Pac instead of Puck because they didn't want people calling it something else. He became a national personality, Pac-Man that is, that was licensed for products such as toys and food, even his own TV show and his own song on the hit parade. In a way, arcades signaled the digital gaming's potential as a social medium because many games allowed players to compete with or against each other standing side by side. Now arcade gaming has been superseded by consoles and computers. So what's an avatar? You probably know, but it's defined as a graphic interactive character situated within the world of the game, became the most common figure of player control and position identification, where the player sees the virtual environment through the eyes of the avatar. So, leisure time. Free time spent away from business or work, job hunting, domestic chores, your free time that you should be able to enjoy. You might be engaging in outdoor activities or engaging in some type of entertainment like movies, TV, or games. What do you do in your leisure time? Leisure time gaming started out with mechanical games, pinball, slots, and arcades. Computer science students started to develop these games, and then don't forget Atari with Pong, combining text, audio, and moving images, and players are able to interact with aspects of this medium. So, the evolution of gaming includes curiosity, investment, and consumer interest. Several learning games that maybe you used as a child growing up include Freddy Fish. Other problem-solving games like Pokemon, where you build your own world. Freestyle, electronic versions of card games. So lots of different types of games that you might be interested in. And then don't forget the personal avatar, the on-screen figures of player identification, fantasy sports games, which are types of games often played on the internet, where players assemble imaginary virtual teams of real players of professional sports, and team owners draft, cut, and trade players similar to real sports. Social gaming includes consoles as entertainment centers. Today, many games are played on consoles in the home, devices specifically used to play games. One way of charting the evolution of the console is to track the number of bits or binary digits that can be processed at one time. The bit rating of a console is a measure of its power at rendering those computer graphics. The higher the bit rating, the more detailed and sophisticated the graphics. So the Atari 2600 used an 8-bit processor. Sega Genesis used a 16-bit console. Now many gaming systems are portable to compete with phones and tablets. Think back to the Game Boy, Nintendo DS, 2DS, DSi, 3DS, and you've probably seen, heard, or maybe own the Nintendo Switch. So, MMORPGs, massively multiplayer online role-playing games, are set in individual virtual worlds that require users to play through an avatar of their own design. So think about the World of Warcraft made a splash when it launched just in time for the 2004 holiday season, always key, right? Growing steadily until membership peaked at 12 million or so. Users can select from 10 different types of avatars, including gnomes, night elves, trolls, etc. To succeed, many players join with other players to form tribes working together for one common goal. Second Life simulations represent another kind of social gaming experience. This game lets players build human avatars and then use real money to buy virtual land and trade in virtual goods and services. Club Penguin, a moderated virtual world purchased by Disney, enables kids to play games and chat as colorful penguins. Toy company Gans produced the game Webkinz World to revive its stuffed animal sales. Now, the massively multiplayer aspect also indicates that digital games, once designed for solo or small group play, have expanded to reach large groups similar to traditional mass media. And then think about Minecraft. You may have just recently seen the movie. You may have stopped at McDonald's for one of the toys. So lots of merchandising available for Minecraft and many video games. So let's talk about immersion and addiction. So beyond entertainment, more portable, more inclusive, and more immersive. But, gaming can also be very addictive. Is it addictive on purpose? So how might it be addictive? How do they get your money? And how do they keep it coming in? So back when we had Atari in our homes, you had to buy the console and you had to buy the new cartridges. But once you bought the cartridge, you owned that game. So how did they kind of level up on that? Well, they decided to make levels and give out rewards. And because games are in the palm of your hand, you can take them anywhere. So let's talk about economics of the gaming industry. So money in comes from games and consoles, and buying also virtual accessories like skins, avatars, weapons, etc. Digital distribution, licensed products. I talked about merchandise like Pokemon, Minecraft, movies. Americans spent more than $43 billion on video games in 2018, but let's see what they did in 2024. So in 2024, the global industry There we go. The global industry generated approximately 187.7 billion in revenue, a 2.1 increase compared to the previous year. A significant portion of this revenue, around 92 billion, came from the mobile gaming segment, which saw 3% growth. The U.S. gaming market, while also experiencing a decline, still reached 58 billion in revenue. So more detailed breakdown, the total revenue of the gaming market in 2024 was almost 190 billion. Mobile gaming remained the largest segment.